All right, everybody. It's of course TKIF and Kemp is Friday, and beyond just music and entertainment, we also love to talk about life, relationships, and everything in between. And I'm so excited about our next guest because I've seen his tweets, I've seen people talking about him on social media, and I was like, who is this guy? He seems to be like the urban Deepak Chopra. Please welcome for the very first time to KEMPIRE Radio's TKIF author, motivational speaker. I know you don't like relationship expert, but we'll go with that as well. Please welcome to the show, Rob Hill Sr. What's going on, Mr. Hill?
Hey, I can't complain at all, man. Thank you for that wonderful introduction as well, man. I appreciate you having me.
I'm really excited to speak with you because beyond just talking about music and entertainment here on the radio show, we also really do like to talk about relationships. We do like to talk about what's going on in the world because it really important. Just as Rihanna and Chris Brown and all these other people are important, what we're all going through is really important. And I think these discussions are becoming more and more in the community. So, first of all, for people that aren't familiar with who Rob Hill Sr. is, how did you get into doing what you do? For those that aren't even familiar with what you do.
Um, it wasn't really like I started off back in 2008. I started this series
Hmm.
called Thoughts for the Day, and what I did, I was write. I'm just writing literally
Hmm.
every day, and I put it out every morning, and it was kind of like I'll call it a motivational newsletter almost, but it was just much more organic than that because I just had like 22 people on this email contact list, and I was writing about fear, love, and relationships, and following your dreams, and whatever was on my heart at that time. And what
Hmm.
I was doing was just trying to become a better writer, but
Hmm.
also trying to help people.
Hmm.
And that list ended up growing to about 4,000 people
Wow.
within 3 years or so. And that got me thinking that all right, maybe I can actually become an author with this,
Hmm.
and I kind of jumped out there in that field. And then speaking is what I really love to do. I love to engage. I'm a much better speaker than I am writer,
Wow.
um, and it's basically I really built it organically. It wasn't like somebody found me and was like, hey, you could do this. We're gonna make you this person. We're gonna put all this money behind you. It was
Mhm.
extremely organic, and it has been up until this point as well.
Was it something that you always wanted to do, but you just didn't know how?
Nah, nah. I thought I was gonna be an actor. I was coming for Denzel's spot, man. That's what I thought. I thought I was gonna be an actor.
Mhm.
And before that, I thought I was gonna be an athlete. I'm only 5'9", so that was kind of out of the bucket. And
Mhm.
acting, I'm from Virginia, and this didn't really seem like a realistic goal at the time. I let life kind of beat me down to make me extremely practical.
Mm.
But I always had a thing for writing. I just never thought that I would be an author,
Yeah.
um, or like that would be my claim, to success, or rather. And then, after I got into it, my confidence started to grow, and then I started believing it to be my purpose. And then little by little, every response, kind of just cemented, what I was really feeling. And then I have an awesome relationship with God, and it was just like, all right, Rob, this is what I have you here to do right now. Be obedient in that, and that's what I did.
A lot of people struggle when we talk about purpose and passion and things like that. A lot of people, they struggle with, okay, how do I figure out what my passion is? How do I know this is my purpose? Is there
hmm
anything that you could tell for our listeners that are listening right now? How did you know this was your purpose? What were the signs? What told you, what this happened, this happened, this happened. Yeah, this must be my purpose. This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
I guess the most tangible indicator was the fact that I was making $0 off of it, but I woke up every day excited to do it.
Wow.
And I think that would, and I kept doing it, even when I wasn't making money. Even if I had to go to the bank and take out a loan, I kept doing it.
Mm.
And every day I woke up excited to do it. But more often than that, it's just that the main thing about I didn't always know what my purpose was. I knew I had the ability to influence people,
Mhm.
and I knew that that was a gift in a sense. But I started reading. I started actually exploring it. I tell people your purpose just doesn't come smack you and say, "Hey, this is what you're supposed to do with the rest of your life." You start, you start seeking it out. It
Mhm.
has to be an internal fire within you, to want to find out what it is, and you got to be open enough to explore different avenues. And that's what I did. But it was like I said, I was making no money off of it. It was,
Mhm.
this is a dying age for print media. So to want to become an author and suspect to be, successful and raise my son and be able to live off of it was a long shot,
Hmm.
But I still was so passionate about it. And even to this day, if I post something, I still get nervous. I still like, what are they saying? How are they going to respond? How are they going to feel?
Hmm.
Um, and I'm so in love with this, and it feels right. That's probably the simplest way to explain it. It feels right.
Do you think? I know. I love what you said that you woke up every day still excited to do it, even though you weren't getting paid for it. And a lot of people, you know, think that following their purpose or their passion is going to give them a big payday. Do you think that's
Hmm.
true? Eventually, will it give them a big payday? Is that something they should look forward to?
Uh,
Or go ahead.
I see. I think credit and cash. And when I say credit, meaning like being acknowledged, and then cash as far as monetary, they follow contribution.
Hmm.
And I think that as long as your purpose is about serving in
Mm.
some way something bigger than you,
Hmm.
then you're going to be provided for. Everybody's not going to be billionaire. You know what I mean? Everybody's not going to get a billion. But I bet you will live a happy life. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And I think chasing a big payday, that'll have you becoming a nickel and dimer.
Mm.
And then you'll crap out because everybody craps out when money is the only motivation. Because basically you just leave yourself to misery. You've been chasing a dollar so much that you haven't really poured into anything.
Hmm.
But I think that, like I said, I like to tell people credit and cash they follow contribution. So as long as you're serving something bigger than yourself, then provision will come.
Most definitely. You're a young guy compared to like some people that I mentioned here on the show and people that we've had here on the show. A lot of people say, why should I listen to Rob Hill Sr.? What does he know? Does he have a doctorate in what he's talking about?
Hmm.
How do you defend yourself when it comes to the advice and the wisdom that you share with people?
Well, I think we all. I try to make it simple. We all
Hmm.
have something to give to one another, and I'm
Hmm.
somebody who never. I am never smart enough to think that there's somebody I can't learn from, or I'll never be that wise.
Hmm.
And I think that if there was just one message or one way to be right, then God wouldn't have given us so many options. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I've never been one to force my message on anyone. It's just like I said, I started with 22 people. I
Hmm.
could just be at 23 now, and I would be fine. I was doing it. I wasn't doing it for that. I feel like I just had a perspective people gravitated towards. But one thing I do have that is to me the highest qualifier, and it's been a qualifier way before degrees were even invented, was experience. And you
Hmm.
cannot take away somebody's experience. If my message or the way I deliver it doesn't resonate with everybody, I am fine with that. That's why you got a TD Jake. That's why you got Devon Franklin. You got so many other people serving in different capacities because, we all respond to the message differently.
Definitely.
Uh, and it works for those it's supposed to work for at this point. And I'm completely comfortable with that. So I don't feel like I have to defend it against everybody. Some people are like, hey, it's not for me. And I'm like, that's a beautiful thing. Go get what is for you.
But luckily, you've really been gravitating and growing and reaching a larger and larger audience. So apparently, a lot of people are connecting with what you have to say. But what happened in your past that gave you the experience? Because I have to admit, at first when I saw your name popping up on social media and things like that, I was like, who is this person?
Hmm.
But then I actually started
Right.
to read some of the things that you were saying, and then in preparing for this interview, I said, okay, let me dig a little bit deeper into who Rob Hill Sr. is, and I'm like, wow, this
Hmm.
guy. First of all, I'm a big advocate for people watching Super Soul Sunday on OWN. A shameless plug
Hmm.
for them, but I feel like you and Oprah need to connect because she's looking for young people just like yourself that get it, and I really feel like you get it.
Hmm.
But what I want to understand is where did this wisdom come from? What happened in Rob Hill Sr.'s past that gave you this experience, that gave you these words that are touching people's lives?
Well, I God bless me. You know what I mean? He gave me, I was blessed with an open mind or the strength to stay open in the midst of my experiences. And
Mm,
I think that allowed me to voice it in the way I do.
yeah.
And I just happen to have a gift of writing so I can articulate it in a way that connects with the way most people feel.
Yeah.
But I won't say it was one experience, but let's just say I got it wrong a lot. I had a knack for the hard way in everything, whether it was school, whether it was career, whether it was relating to women or relating to family, or even understanding myself.
Hmm.
I got it wrong a lot. But one thing in getting it wrong was that it kind of refined me. It not even to preach, but biblically it says, you know, count it all joy when you run through, hard times, because hard times produce patience, and that patience, when it's done, basically you'll be complete, lacking nothing. And
Hmm.
I think that because I got it wrong so much and I went through that process, it made me extremely patient, but it also made me extremely observant, but it made me hungry, and it made me, appreciate what it is to get it right, or
Hmm.
even get, or even to do better.
Hmm.
Whether it was my parents kicking me out, and I'm realizing that I had never treated anybody well enough for them to want to care for me, or even want to be there for me.
Hmm.
You have to look at yourself. And you're like, when I'm down, why is nobody helping you up? Well, duh, it's because you've been not the best person to them, And I learned from that how to speak life into people, how to be a good friend, how to be a better person, but more often how to be a contributor.
Hmm.
My goal with this was to add value to anyone and everything that I came in contact with. That doesn't mean I can be a savior. It doesn't mean that I'm going to make everything perfect. But if it was only 10 bricks when I got there, it's going to at least be 11. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Or they're going to be 10 unbreakable bricks when I leave. You get
Hmm.
what I'm saying? I'm not going to say you're going to have the biggest mansion, but I'm going to contribute constructively in some way. And I think that I got that perspective just from getting it wrong.
Do you think that you're, from when you started with with those few people on your emailing list, how has your
Hmm.
vision and your mission evolved to what it is today in 2014?
Okay. Simply, when I started, I was like, I'm gonna get on Oprah's show. She's gonna invite me on her show. Um, Today, she's gonna give me a show, and that's
Mm.
just the way I see it.
Hmm.
And it's not the and it's and I say that lightly, not just her, but my scope was small at first, and I
Yeah.
think that when you start operating, in your purpose, or with passion, God just starts saying, "Hey, you thought I was just gonna give you this? No, I have all of this for you. Should you
Mm.
continue to walk in it, And
Hmm.
but it was I just had a small scope. Like at first, I was just a writer.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And you couldn't tell me anything else. But then when I became an author, I was like, oh wow, there is a difference. There is a difference. I don't just put words on paper. I create life in books. And you know what I mean? It just felt different. So the way I look at things now is like, I'll tell you a story. Me and my mom, we were in Chipotle, right?
Hmm.
And you know how they cut and they have those great knives,
Yeah.
just one slice and then it's cut. And I was like, my mom's an amazing cook, and I was like, hey, when I get on, I'm gonna get you one of those knives. I know they're expensive. And she was like, what? Don't give me one of those knives. Get me one of him. And she pointed to the guy cutting it. She was like, I
Oh.
don't need a knife. Give me a chef. And you know what I'm saying? Like that was just the next level thinking in a very
Hmm.
small practical scale.
Yeah.
But that's the way I think. Like no, don't give me a ride, give me a plane. And
Yeah.
it's not just materialistic, but it's also from purpose. Like
Hmm.
no, we're not just gonna do an event. We're gonna fill up an arena.
Do you think?
And that's just the way I see it.
If you guys just tuned in, I'm here with motivational speaker, author, and so many other things, Rob Hill Sr. Um, do you think that people in the world, some of the struggles that we see every day, um, but these are two separate questions. Do you think the world is
Hmm.
getting to a better place, or do you think that we are not getting to a better place? Spiritually,
I think
emotionally?
I think the world is uneasy and restless right now.
Hmm.
And I think that that is a beautiful thing because I tell people discontent is the catalyst of change. And
Mm.
people aren't happy. And when people aren't happy, then you get a own network. When people aren't happy, you get these guys you get more writers, you get more speakers, you get more influencers because they need something real. And I believe that that's the only reason why, my stuff has grown in this period because people are searching. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? And I do believe that, as a society, we go through awakening periods. And, I think that we're like, all right, we got nice stuff. The world is operating fast, but where are we going?
Mm.
Who's leading us? Is anything real anymore? You get these questions. You get that's why people are unrest. You get all these angry people. That's a sign.
Mm.
That's a sign. And I think that while we're more connected than we ever been, we're so separated, we're so isolated.
Yeah.
We're so isolated, and I think that that's a good thing. Good can come from that.
One of the things that I
Yep.
always say is that the reason why a lot of us suffer in life is when we focus on the things that we can't change, or we get in our own way. Do you think that's true?
hmm
Why a lot of people suffer?
Um, yeah, getting in your way is a huge thing, but I think deeper than that is underestimating our ability to change things.
Mm.
You ask people like why the world is the way it is, and they say, "But we can't do anything about that." And you ask them why, or if they've tried,
Mm.
and they'll say, "Well, so and so was supposed to do this, and then if he did that, then I would be able to do this." And you're like, "No, not at all. You're underestimating what God put in you."
Mm.
And that's a part of the books that I've read is that that we can't change everything,
Mm.
but we can influence anything, and we don't have to personally change it. We just have to plant seeds.
Mm.
You know, and things do change, but I think that we're so we're in a society where it's like, hey, that's your job. That ain't my job. You do that. You do that. And we always try to put it off on somebody else, and we don't realize that it doesn't matter who we put it on. We all got to deal with it.
Definitely, definitely. Rob, the other question that I have, especially, I mentioned at the very top of this interview that you don't like to be called a relationship expert. Can you explain
Right.
to the audience why exactly you don't like to be called a relationship expert?
Well, I have various reasons, but just we've had relationship experts for the past 50 years,
Mm-hmm.
and every year the divorce rate rises,
Hmm.
and that means something. You can't be an expert on people. People are growing, they're changing, they're evolving,
Mm-hmm.
and what I propose is that I can have a unique understanding as to what a healthy, constructive relationship is. It's about as best I can get you. But to be an expert on it, to say I've perfected it in that way, I think that's extremely unfair. One, I can't live up to that.
Mm-hmm.
How else do you explain people being married for 25 years and still getting a divorce? There's so many relationship experts out there. We all have a unique perspective, that we can grow from. But I don't want to. I don't want that title. It's to me, I don't need it. One, if you want to listen to my advice on relationships, then take it. But if me calling myself an expert gives me a certain platform, and then you automatically respect me a little bit more, no, I don't need that title. Because relationships are it's a liquid thing. It's not like now, granted, I want my doctor to actually have a PhD if he's performing on my heart,
Yeah.
but this is different.
Mm-hmm.
This is different, and I just my starting out it was just everybody calls themselves a relationship.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people saying that now, and I was just like,
A lot.
no, I don't believe that I'm that. I just don't believe that I'm that. There's nothing wrong with anybody saying it or choosing to believe it. I'm not knocking anyone. I'm saying just for me, for Rob Hill,
Yeah.
for the way I do things. Um, I'm somebody who has an open mind, an opinion, and some very clear thoughts on relationships that some people may be able to use. And if they choose to use them, then great. Um, if not, then hopefully they get something that works for them.
What is the biggest mistake you think that people make in relationships?
Well, there's a lot of big mistakes. I think the biggest one is getting in ones that they shouldn't be in, and they know
Mm,
they shouldn't be in.
mm,
I think the foundational thing is just building relationships on quicksand, on shaky ground.
mhm,
Having no solid foundation. That's probably the biggest mistake. People assume that strong emotion means strong love, and that actually equals strong relationship. And no, those equate to one another. Um, and I think that it blurs a lot of lines for us these days. We don't like I said, we're connected, but we don't communicate.
Hmm.
Intimacy is our generation. We're big sexual beings. We're great at sexuality, but we suck at intimacy. You know what I mean? And it's
Hmm.
like I can share space with you, but I won't trust you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. How would you define intimacy?
Isolating us is making us islands, and it just nothing works that way.
Hmm. So,
That's really what you said.
no, no, go ahead.
No, I was just basically saying that's what I feel is the biggest thing. With relationships, it's just we're building them on unstable ground,
Hmm.
and they're not based on the right things. I don't believe
So,
they're based on.
one of the one, I think you give really, really great advice. And like I said before, I've been seeing your tweets and different things show up on social media. But one of the things that I love to share is advice that's been given to me, or that I've learned from. What has been the best advice that you've given, but also what's the best advice you've ever received?
Um, I choose to believe that the um, the advice. Have you ever heard somebody give you advice and it was like that's extremely simple, and you think like that's common sense. And I
Hmm.
think that all of the good advice I've ever got felt like common sense when I heard it.
Mm.
And the reason I feel like the beautiful thing about common sense is that it's so practical that you almost have to be stupid not to apply it. It's so practical that you can't point a finger at anybody for not
Mhm.
doing it. It's that easy. It sounds that easy. So if you don't actually employ yourself to do it, you can't point a finger at anybody else. You got to look, and you actually have to be introspective for a moment. You got to look and say, "Hey, what's up with me?
Mhm.
Why am I not able to do this?" I think some of the best advice I got ever was from my mother, and she said, "Don't harden your heart. Stay open.
Mm.
Allow yourself to feel." And so many of us, we're desensitized to life. We spend all our days trying to avoid disappointment, trying to avoid failure, trying to avoid all this stuff that's necessary for our growth. Like we're a block, right? And God sends some stuff to chip us, to mold us, to you know give us our divinity. And we don't respond to that the right way. We use disappointment as a chance, as an opportunity to get closed off, and we harden our hearts. And the minute we do that, we can't grow. We're stuck to all the BS or to all the bad things that we're trying to avoid. We end up confining ourselves to it. Just like the Bible says, guard your heart. What our generation has, we've taken that and we've imprisoned our hearts. We just lock it down.
Mhm. Did
Like,
you
nope, you can't feel. You know.
did you
Go
happen to
ahead.
see? It's so funny that you were talking about not hardening your heart and being more open. It seems as if a lot of people are connecting with that theory and that idea because Dr. Brene Brown, she did a whole TED talk on vulnerability. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I'm actually a big fan of Brene Brown. I think that her studies on vulnerability are really changing people, and
Hmm.
it's a beautiful thing because like it's just like me talking about intimacy.
Hmm.
The connection between that and vulnerability is huge
Yeah.
because it's allowing yourself to trust, allowing yourself to feel, allowing people to see the true you and to be okay with that.
Hmm.
We aren't taught to work on our flaws. We're taught to cover them up.
Mm.
And that's one of the major things about our generation. That's why I tell people we experience too soon and develop too late. So
Wow.
we get bogged down with all this stuff and we're underdeveloped. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're a generation of undeveloped parts, undeveloped people, because we get hit with all this life.
Mm.
You know what I mean? We get hit with all this life, and instead of looking at ourselves and saying, "Hey, you're beautiful, you're strong," we're like, "Nope, I need these eyelashes, I need this car, I need these extensions of myself," instead of just working on us.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, but like I said, her studies are incredible.
Definitely, I really hope that people are, I hope that spreads because I see the power in vulnerability and how that does prepare you and actually makes you stronger, as opposed to what people really think vulnerability does. Um, but,
People equate vulnerability to weakness, and I
mhm.
tell people vulnerability is strength.
Rob,
It
before
is
we let
strength.
you go, I want just quickly, um, first, what piece of advice would you give to the ladies that are listening? Because advice in general is great, but there are struggles that women and men that they go through that are different. What advice would you give to the ladies,
hmm
and what advice would you give to the men?
For the ladies, I would want them to understand their value.
Mm,
A lot of people have preached knowing your worth,
mhm,
and I think that that is great. But my transition for that is understanding your value. When you know you're valuable, you have a responsibility to contribute. And I think that we have to be contributors to our friends, to ourselves, to our family, to our lovers. In any way, we have to find ways to where we can make each other and things better.
mm,
So I want women to understand their value, um, and really know or trust and actually believe they are valuable.
mhm,
And there's it's not just desirable but valuable. And there's a quote that says that there's a difference between being desired and valued.
mhm,
Um, so I want them to get past just wanting to be wanted and actually understanding, the importance of being valued. To men, I would really just want us to understand the power in our words and how our life will go wherever our words lead it,
mm,
and how it's extremely important to not only speak life over each other as men, but to speak life over our women, to speak life over our children, to speak life over our careers, because we're all one choice away from a completely different life, and I like emphasizing that point because I need us to know that wherever we're going to be from here is going to be a result of what we speak.
mm.
And we just have to watch our words, and that's a big thing for me.
Definitely. Rob, in preparation for getting you ready for Super Soul Sunday, because I'm sure you're going to be on Super Soul Sunday, I'm going to be your advocate to get you on Super Soul Sunday because even before we did this interview, just listening to different talks that you've given and reading some of your stuff, I'm like, wow, he would be perfect on Super Soul Sunday. It's one of my favorite shows on OWN. It's not just because Oprah's been here, but it really is. It's something that rejuvenates me
hmm
during the week, and I can see you being a part of that and being a perfect fit. But in order to get you prepared for Super Soul Sunday, I'm going to ask a couple of some questions for you to finish for me, okay?
Okay, let's
All
do it.
right, finish the sentence. Life is.
Ooh. Uh, uh,
Gotta be quicker. Come on.
life is a journey. I would say journey. Journey.
The person I most want to be proud of me is.
Me.
Mm. My biggest fear is.
Not, not loving hard enough.
Mm. I am most insecure when.
When I know I'm doing something I shouldn't be. When I
Mm.
know I'm going against my purpose.
Love is.
Life. It's everything.
God is.
My Ah. It's crazy because a thousand things come through my mind when I think of that. But
Mhm.
in simple form, God is love. He is everything. The provider. This my security. Yeah.
Rob, you shared a kind of an idea of what you want the future to be, but what else do you see for your future in the next couple of years? Where do you want to be? What do you want to do?
I want to be an important voice in this generation. I
Mm,
want people to see pieces of themselves in me. But if I was to die tomorrow, I would just want to be remembered as somebody who helped, who
mm,
tried to serve people in the best way he could. Um, and moving forward, I would just love the opportunity, for my platform to grow, for the message to spread. But I don't just want a big audience. I want an active
mm,
audience. I want people to know, that when I'm around or people who have been around me, that the atmosphere is going to change.
mhm,
I want everything about this to feel different, but I want it to feel progressive. I want it to feel positive, and I want it to be purposeful. I want it to be undeniable. Um, that everything that I've done, every person I've touched, every event I went to, anything, um, that there was a tool given that
mm.
allowed life never to be, the same for those people.
Definitely. Rob Hill Sr., for the very first time here on TKAF and Campus Friday and Kempire Radio. Rob, let everyone know where they can follow you and get more information about you and what's coming up for you.
Well, everybody, my website is www.robhillsenior.com. That's ROBHILLSR.com. On all social media, be it Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram, it's all Rob Hill Senior. It's all BHILLSR. I have the Living Life for a Living tour with Kenny Burns coming up. I also have a web series show I'm working on called The Real with Rob Hill. And I also have a tour with that same likeness. And my new book is going to be called The Missing Piece.
Mm.
It's going to be my first time working with a major publisher. So I'm excited about that. It should be out either late this year or early 2015. So I got some things coming up.
Most definitely. Everybody, make sure you get familiar with Rob Hill Sr. I'm sure you're going to see him, a lot more of him, I should say, everywhere. We appreciate you taking the time out for being here, Rob.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me, man.